What's up, Blue Jays Hub? It's AJ LaMaestro. And folks, I've got a lot to unpack today because a Jays signing is incoming. After what has genuinely been a ridiculous stretch of weeks surrounding this team's bullpen usage, and now with an opening sitting right there in the starting rotation, new rumors are starting to swirl around a name this front office might be targeting, and it's looking more and more like a signing is on the horizon. Before I get into any of it, though, I need to say thank you because we just hit 3,000 subscribers on this channel, and that means the absolute world to me. But we are not stopping there. We're chasing 4,000 next. And if you're new here, if you just found this channel, get that subscribe button smashed right now because you are about to get the real no filter breakdown of everything happening with this ball club. Now, look, yesterday's game did not go the way any of us wanted. And I'm not going to sugarcoat that for you. But here's the silver lining, folks. The Texas Rangers also lost. So even after a rough night, the Jays are still sitting in a perfectly fine spot in this playoff race. And honestly, in my personal opinion, that's the story of this entire season right now. Every time it feels like a gut punch, the rest of the field cooperates just enough to keep the door wide open. So let's get into these rotation rumors because this is where things get juicy. As you guys know, the Jays recently scooped up reliever Paul Sewald. And it sounds like that might not be the last move this front office makes before the dust settles. According to reporting that's been circulating, veteran starter Miles McCullough was recently designated for assignment by the Washington organization, and his ERA sitting north of 5.80 across well over 100 innings this season reportedly makes him the worst qualified starter in all of baseball by that specific number. Now, a couple of things here. Mikolas has been around the league for a long time. I want to say he actually faced off against Alek Manoah on an opening day a few seasons back. So correct me in the comments if I'm slightly off on the exact year there. But the second this DFA news dropped, Jays fans online started connecting the dots immediately, wondering out loud whether this is the guy who ends up eating innings in Toronto. Is he still a good pitcher? In my personal opinion, not really, if we're being honest with each other. Can he still eat innings for you? Genuinely, yes. And that matters a lot right now because multiple reports have indicated the Jays do not currently have a firm, settled plan for that fifth starter spot. What Mikolas does bring to the table is elite control. This is a guy who simply does not walk batters, even though his actual stuff has been well below league average for a few seasons running now. He's posted an ERA north of 4.70 in every season going back to 2023. So I want to be crystal clear. I am not sitting here telling you this move would make the Blue Jays a better team on paper. I don't think it does. But when you look at who's actually available on the open market right now, his name keeps coming up. And there's a reason for that. The guy is durable. He's reportedly ranked inside the top 15 in innings pitched league wide across the last few seasons, even while the actual effectiveness has slipped. Given how often this coaching staff has leaned on opener strategies lately, if they do end up bringing in a guy like Mikolas, my read on it, in my personal opinion, is that it would function almost exactly like the Patrick Corbin situation from earlier this year. Corbin was genuinely rough for most of his time here, gave the team a handful of usable innings here and there, and then ultimately faded and landed on the 60-day injured list. So this wouldn't be a move to make the rotation scarier. It would be a move purely to save wear and tear on a bullpen that has been worked to the bone. And speaking of arms getting stretched thin, it sounds like the coaching staff is now deploying one of their depth arms almost exclusively out of the bullpen rather than stretching him back out as a starter. And it's not hard to see why. When you look at his numbers, an ERA near 4.78 back in 2023, north of 5 the following year, and still sitting north of 4.5 more recently. By all accounts, a fantastic veteran clubhouse presence, the kind of guy young players lean on, but not someone who's going to move the needle competitively at this point in his career. Back to Mikolas for a second, because I think the full picture matters here. This is a guy who's thrown over 1,000 innings in his career, and his last genuinely great season came a few years back when he made an all-star team with an ERA hovering around 3.29 across 32 starts. He's 37 years old now. The raw stuff has clearly declined. And if you look at the underlying batted ball data, he gives up a ton of hard contact and a ton of barrels. The only category where he still excels is command. He averages right around 93 miles an hour on his four-seamer these days and mixes in a full arsenal of 6 different pitches, but hitters are squaring him up at an uncomfortable rate. So here's my question for the comment section. Would it bother you if the Jays brought this guy in? because he is not going to help this team win more games directly. What he would do is soak up innings and give some of these gas bullpen arms a breather. And look, we said almost the exact same thing about Patrick Corbin. Though to be fair, Corbin actually had a better platform season under his belt at the time of his signing than McCullough does right now. So it's not a perfect comparison. His career ERA sits around 4.37 for context. And Mikolas isn't the only name being floated around either. According to reporting, veteran right-hander German Marquez has also come up in trade and depth conversations. There are going to be a lot more names like this floated over the coming days, folks, because this rotation spot situation is genuinely fluid right now. Manager John Schneider reportedly said the starter situation for this upcoming weekend is, quote, literally up in the air, and indicated that depending on usage and workload, one internal bullpen arm could get stretched out for a spot start, with another reliever who threw recently also in the mix as a possibility. But here's the update I actually find more encouraging than any of the trade or DFA speculation. Spencer Horwitz is reportedly throwing a bullpen session today, and he's got a rehab outing lined up in Buffalo, working around a 60 pitch limit. Folks, this could be enormous. If Horwitz is genuinely healthy and on track to return to a starting rotation role, that changes this entire conversation because he's historically been a reliable, dependable starter, and he could step directly into that fifth spot without the team needing to go outside the organization at all. And let's not forget, this is a big part of why the front office moved Dalton Varsho in a trade in the first place to bring pieces like Horwitz into the fold. So if he comes back healthy and effective, that's a massive boost to the depth of this staff heading into the stretch run. Now, I do want to be honest with you about how nerve-wracking it is to have this much uncertainty in a rotation spot while you're locked in a tight divisional battle against a team like the Yankees. When the standings are this close, every single start matters, and having a question mark in your rotation heading into a series like this is genuinely a little bit scary. But on the bright side, in my personal opinion, the Jays remain in a perfectly workable position in this race, and there's real reason for optimism if the health situation breaks the right way over the next week or two. Let's shift gears for a second and talk about this offense because, folks, it has been rough. According to advanced statistical rankings being shared by baseball analysts, the Jays currently sit with the second worst weighted runs created plus in all of baseball, sandwiched right between the Cincinnati Reds and the Colorado Rockies, with the Philadelphia Phillies also surprisingly lurking down in that same offensive basement. And when you dig into the deeper advanced metrics, the picture doesn't get any prettier. Their actual offensive production is running right in line with, or even slightly above, their expected numbers, which tells you this isn't a case of a talented offense underperforming due to bad luck. This offense has simply genuinely been bad. Thankfully, the pitching staff has been carrying an enormous amount of weight to compensate. Zooming out a bit further, this team has reportedly gone 9-5 over their last 14 games, which is a genuinely strong stretch of baseball by any measure. But I completely understand the frustration bubbling up in the fan base right now because it absolutely feels like a handful of those losses were winnable. Tough defeats against divisional and interleague opponents where this team left real opportunities on the table. Yesterday's game specifically got away from them in a lopsided fashion, reportedly by a score somewhere around 7-0. So I'm not sure that particular one was ever truly in reach. But I understand the broader sentiment, and in my personal opinion, don't let one frustrating final score distract you from the bigger picture of a team that is genuinely trending in the right direction. And helping that push going forward is going to be Paul Sewald, who, as I mentioned at the top, spoke with Hazel May and expressed genuine excitement about joining this organization and getting to work helping this bullpen down the stretch. There are expected to be corresponding roster moves today to get him officially activated onto the active roster. There's also been some chatter swirling about a possible call-up for top prospect Ricky Tiedemann today. I'll be straight with you. In my personal opinion, I don't think that actually happens today, but I wanted to flag it for you guys regardless, because if it does happen, I want to be one of the first ones on record saying it. Longer term, though, I do genuinely believe he gets his call up at some point later this season because he spoke out recently and made it clear that the decision is really in the hands of John Schneider and pitching coach Pete Walker. From his own perspective, he said his job is simply to keep throwing his game so that whenever the call comes, he's ready to answer it. He also joined a recent interview to discuss exactly where his development stands and whether a major league opportunity could be coming soon. It's worth remembering he was only recalled to AAA roughly a week and a half ago after coming off the injured list, and his numbers down there so far are still a small sample, a handful of appearances, and a handful of earned runs allowed. So it's not like he's been dominant in that return look, but given the state of this bullpen right now, I wouldn't rule out the front office deciding to just roll the dice and get him up here regardless. Keep an eye on that situation because it could move fast. There's one more thread I want to pull on before we wrap up, and it's really the crux of everything we've talked about today. According to rankings being shared by baseball writers tracking recent form, the pitching staff continues to grade out extremely well, while the offense remains stuck near the bottom of the league. And here's the thing, folks. If this offense ever actually gets going, if some of these core everyday players like Kevin Biggio and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. get consistently hot at the same time, this team could go on an absolute tear. But that surge has to start with those two guys specifically finding their groove because right now, this offense simply cannot afford to have its two most important bats running cold simultaneously. And look, despite everything, despite the frustrating losses, despite the offensive struggles, despite the uncertainty at the back of the rotation, the Jays currently sit 2 games back of a wild card spot. And yesterday's loss really didn't move the needle much in the grand scheme of things. They're chasing down teams like the Tigers, the Rangers, and the Twins for that final playoff position. And in my personal opinion, I genuinely refuse to believe this Blue Jays team isn't better than every single one of those clubs standing in front of them right now. The talent is there. The pitching has proven it can hang with anybody in baseball. All they need is for the bats to wake up at the right time and for this rotation question mark to resolve itself in a positive direction, whether that's Spencer Horwitz coming back healthy or the front office making a shrewd, low cost addition like a McCollus or a Marquez to eat some innings. So here's where I land on all of this. This is a team that is genuinely built to make a real push, provided a few things break their way over the next several weeks. The bullpen situation needs reinforcements, and it sounds like Paul Sewald is just the beginning of that. The rotation needs clarity, and Spencer Horwitz throwing bullpens today is about as encouraging a sign as you could ask for on that front. And the offense needs its two most important hitters to remember how to hit baseballs consistently. Put all three of those pieces together, and this is a genuinely dangerous team heading down the stretch. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments. Would you be upset if the Jays brought in a name like Miles Mikolas purely to eat innings? Do you think Ricky Tiedemann gets the call sooner than people expect? And most importantly, do you trust Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Kevin Biggio to heat up at the right time to carry this offense into the stretch run? Let me know all of it. Before you go, do me a favor. If you're not subscribed yet, help us get to that 4,000 subscriber milestone because we just hit 3,000, and I want to keep this momentum rolling right alongside this team's playoff push. Smash that like button because it genuinely helps get this breakdown in front of more Jays fans who need the real no filter update. And get down in that comment section and let me know your thoughts. This is AJ LaMaestro signing off from Blue Jays Hub, and I will see you in the next one.